Welcome, gorgeous souls, to another episode of Heart and Soul. And today we share about self compassion. And it's a wide topic. It in with self-care, self-love, acceptance. Janet and I, we just talked about acceptance and self-compassion, being the nurturing, loving person you are with your friends and puppies and children. But so often we have that harsh self-talk and we have high expectations of ourselves. So welcome to another chat. Self-compassion. What a great topic, Janet.
Absolutely, Caroline. As you rightly said, we've talked about self-love and self-care. There's so many things, and self-compassion is to me a real cornerstone, a vital part of it's like rebuilding yourself. And there's a quote, and it's Gary Zukav, who wrote The Seat of the Soul. And he says that, you know, only by feeling compassion for yourself can you feel compassion for others. And that is true. So if you can't show yourself self compassion, you're not able to do that for the people around you. And it is really important because it's that being kind to yourself, being gentle, being nurturing, all of those things that you think sort of like a mother is to their child.
Mhm.
And that's when I think of self-compassion, that's what I think about, sort of feeling almost wrapped in a lovely blanket and cuddled.
Definitely, definitely. And I mean that quote, that saying goes for everything, for self-love. Without truly loving yourself, you can never love someone else for who they are, then it's just a different width and depths
Yeah,
of that feeling. And yeah, it all starts with self-nurturing, self-compassion. And yeah, I think especially now, here in January we need that comfy blanket around us and just connect to our heart and our soul. I think that's where we find self-compassion. And of course, it starts with self-acceptance and acceptance of the things you cannot change.
exactly. I know that for me, self-compassion was a little bit of a challenge when I worked with when I did this self-love journey with you, Caroline, because for so long I had been so negative to myself. In fact, at some stage, because of what happened, I really disliked myself for so long, and it was so ingrained. And it really took a lot of work working with you to get back to a place where actually I could start to not only self love, but to show myself that compassion of being kind to myself and change that negative mind talk, flip that over and start to be sort of look for the good. And that was a massive turning point on my journey with you, Caroline, that you helped me through that next level of healing. And definitely the compassion. When we think of compassion, you know, if you're not, religious, we think of the Christ compassion. We think of compassion as sort of being that reaching out to help someone else no matter what. There's no division, that if they need your support, you will reach out with love and you will be kind and support them. And that is what our world needs. It's not only what we need, it's what our world needs, but it has to start with us. What do you think, Caroline?
Definitely, definitely. It's sort of that kindness to oneself. And for me, it all starts with acceptance, because for me, I had the parts that were deemed good, and growing up, we all have our stories and our parents that help us along, on our journey. And I was always being the good girl. So when I was the good girl, I was liked, I was pleasing my parents, later my boyfriends and husband, and trying to be the good mom to my kids, and always the good girl, the kind one. But when you lack that self kindness, or only sort of love parts of yourself, you're always trying to hide the other parts, or you're pushing against them, and that takes so much energy. You're always sort of depleted, because you're so trying to push a side down, you're so trying not to show that part of you. So it all starts with accepting who you are fully, all the deemed good parts and all the parts you don't like so much about yourself yet, but they are part of you. And as a whole, then, when we can accept all of us, we can then be kind to all of us and feel the compassion, and especially feel the compassion for the parts we try to hide. For example, we talked about that in another episode. For 40 plus years, I felt and always heard I'm too sensitive. So I tried to push that down, and I was several times I was told to toughen up and be more of a mind person, but I was always sort of a hard person. And so I felt something is completely wrong with me, and I tried to push that away. It never worked, till the moment I embraced that sensitivity and learned that it's one of the greatest gifts. And it's usually in the hidden parts, the parts we don't like about ourselves, that our greatest gifts and treasures are. And then we can be more compassion, because then I felt the compassion for my sensitive side, for my sensitive childhood, and how I tried to fit in a harsh world. And you just feel that compassion for yourself, or how you grew up, and then it just comes natural. And we need that kindness, that connecting to our heart, to feel that love and kindness and compassion for the journey we came along. And yeah, also a bit of being proud of how far we've come.
Exactly. And you mentioned something there about sort of, it's all, this is part of the journey, the first sort of steps into, finding your way back to living a heart and soul led life. And absolutely, it is important to go through this journey of self acceptance, self love, self worth, self, there's so much we talk about self, and it's not the ego self, it's the who we are. And you're right, you have we're flawed, we're by design, we're flawed. We have, the not the good, the bad, and the ugly, but we have that sort of shadow side, and it is embracing all of that, all of who we are, and accepting that, and loving, and being kind, and that lovely compassionate sort of feels like, yes, just taking it all, everything for what it is, for who you are, and just, yeah, give Caroline gives great hugs, big self hug. It really is, because until you get to that point, it's very hard to kind of sort of like almost sink down into living in that heart space, that soul connection. So this is very much a vital part of the start of your spiritual healing journey. And I know for me, because there was sort of a bit of a rocky patch when we moved back to the UK, it really sort of set me off in a spin. And it was really lovely that Caroline was in my life and she helped me to get through that. And it really brought that next level of healing that I needed to sort of shift really down into the heart and soul space to be able to connect with that. And it's made a massive difference to my life. I mean, a lot of people say, oh, you look really different. And it isn't because I've lost weight, because I haven't. But it is because I feel that you helped me to find my way back, that I could shine, that being back in that space, I found the light again. And that was very important to me. So if you are feeling like that, or if you're feeling a bit lost, or, things aren't right and you're struggling with sort of feeling depressed, pushed down into this, consider sort of a journey. If you feel called to do that journey of changing things, if you want to change or transform things, I mean, do reach out to us, because we've been there. You've heard Caroline talking about her story. You know a bit of my story as well. We truly understand what it's like, and we have compassion for you, for any of our clients, because we have learned to have self-compassion. So what do you think, Caroline?
Definitely, and you touched that. I think it's the body, so many women especially don't feel comfortable in their body, and it's sort of like that body shaming, and you have a bit of a belly, or you have a bit wider hips, or whatever. We can find so many faults when we look at it, and it's sort of more shifting to be more compassionate and acceptance. I mean, I shared that. I mean, I'm short and wide and more stocky, and my two sisters are thin and slim and very tall. And compared to them, I was always the ugly duckling and never turned into the swan. But
You
but
have.
it's sort of, it's just like accepting that part. I have wide shoulders. I mean, what can you do? You can't saw off a bone and shorten the shoulders. And also I have a belly now, and being compassionate. And that helped me sort of feeling loving my body the way it is and accepting it. And the belly, it was sort of like, I grew 3 children in my belly, it expanded, it retracted, and feeling grateful for that part. And then it was easier to feel compassion for my belly and compassion for my journey, and letting go of that picture we have, or standards society set of how we need to look or be, and coming more inwards and not sort of so focused on the outside, how you appear, or that you always have to have perfect hair, perfect makeup, perfect outfit, but coming more into a relaxed state of who you are, and being okay to wearing something comfortable, and okay the way you are. I mean, so many of us, we focus too much on how we look, but when we feel good about ourselves, then we look beautiful and we shine that inner light, and that's what then people notice. It's not, oh, you have nice trousers, yes, but then they don't see our face, or they don't see our heart or soul. And I think nowadays people want to connect heart to heart, soul to soul, and not just that artificial sort of like, I'm all made up and I'm perfect, but it's okay. We all go through that phase, and arriving back into our heart and soul, and having that compassion for our body, our feelings, our thoughts, and our energy, just looking after ourselves in the best way we can.
Exactly. I know. And I was just, when you're talking about that, I was just thinking, actually, I did used to be very slim. And then over the years, it's kind of for various reasons. But I have to say, is the number of people though that say, when they're stressed or grief or anything, it's someone they'll come to me for a hug. And I think it is because I have that more sort of curvy, cuddly body that just sometimes it sort of reminds people of sort of that mother nurturing. And for that I'm grateful, because kids all the time, they'll come over and they'll want a hug. Even these days you have to go, I'm not sure I can do that. I would want to give them a hug because they're so, but they don't see that because they're not ingrained at that point. They just see, and I think it is your aura, your heart and soul energy, and they relate to that. And that's why, like, yourself, animals will come to you, or children will come to you, or even some people who are having a difficult time, they won't know, but they'll be drawn to you. And it is, you may have sort of a slightly larger physical body, but it's also that energetic body as well. So I think I have to have a slightly bigger body to hold that sort of big heart and soul.
Definitely. And that nurturing energy, and that comes from self-nurturing, self-compassion. We can ooze that out, because like with everything, when we fill up our inner jar, with the energy, with that love, with that compassion, it then sort of oozes out, and we can share it with the world, and people are drawn to that energy more than ever, because the world can be a harsh one. And so no need to be harsh on yourself. I mean, just observe your self-talk, how you think about yourself when you look in the mirror. It's, maybe I share 2-3 tips with you here. When you go to the mirror, I mean, I always go like, okay, eye bags, lines here, I look tired. Why not go and just smile at yourself and say, hey, good morning, Caroline. You use your name, good morning, I'm wishing you a wonderful day, welcome, wonderful you're here, and things like these. So whenever you pass a mirror, remember to just smile at yourself. And an add-on is to find something positive to focus on, like, oh, your eyes are sparkly, or oh, you have nice curls, or it's something positive to sort of learn to focus more on the positive. And another thing is, yes, we talked about hugs, and Janet and I, we are huggers. And whenever we meet, we just hug, for 5 minutes. It's really great and touches heart to heart. And you can hug yourself, you can just sort of put your arms around you and just hug yourself and say, oh, it feels so good. Oh, I love you, Caroline. And oh, you're such a great person. And you're so compassionate. Oh. And then switch the arms. The one that was underneath goes on top, and then it sort of doesn't feel so comfortable. But we are embracing and loving the more uncomfortable sides of ourselves, and learn to accept that and see the good in all the uncomfortable parts of us. And just take a deep breath and be with it, feel into it. And yeah, just do that whenever you feel a bit low, or do it maybe as a daily ritual so you can integrate it into your life, like brushing your teeth. I think a positive self-awareness, acceptance, and of course self-compassion comes from gentle, loving reminders of being compassionate with yourself, and just observe the talk. When something goes wrong, don't talk down on you. We all make mistakes. It's a journey. We are human beings. We are not robots, thankfully, and things go wrong. Sometimes we say the wrong things, or we're not 100% at its best. Be compassionate. See that you were tired, you tried your best, it was whatever, and move on. And of course, forgive yourself, forgive others, and just you learn. We all learn, these are the stepping stones on our journey.
Exactly. I love those tips, Caroline. I was going to ask you, have you got any practices or tips that you can share? So that's a really lovely one and a really easy one. I mean, obviously, if you're out and you sort of just feeling that you just want to connect, I mean, put your hand on your heart area or over, just the front of your chest, and just, breathe in that lovely love energy and just reconnect with yourself. And just as you sort of say, even in your head, just say, I love you. You're doing the best you can. And I think that's exactly right, because I would be really hard on myself when things went wrong because I was a perfectionist. Oh my goodness, it's just, wow, it was so heavy for so long. And now I'm definitely, that acceptance is a key thing, because now I can accept if I make a mistake, I've made a mistake. Obviously, you try and correct it if you or sort it out, but not to beat myself up, because that's the resilient side of things, about being able to sort of go, right, that's happened. Okay, move on. Very, very important. My resilience was never good, but definitely now I can bounce back.
Yeah, and definitely the move on part, because for things I could, for years and decades, I could still remember that thing and getting angry with myself for doing something or not listening to my intuitions. I knew better, but look at it and say, okay, what were the indicators, or what could I learn from it? And it's just a learning step. Okay, good. Next time I know better. Or maybe next time I make the same mistake, but it's okay. And what I always say is, when we have a toddler, they sort of stand up, 2-3 steps, they fall down and they try to get up and keep going. And as a mom or a caretaker, how would it be if we go and say, you toppled over. That's not how it's going to be. You have to keep walking and you have to try harder, and you just, you're a failure and everything. We never would do that. We would go say, oh, look, great, you did 2 steps. Try again. And encourage, and we are all toddlers in our life. We topple over. And all we need from ourselves, because the universe is already so compassionate with us. They have a big heart. They love us just the way we are. And when we topple over, they encourage us to just get up, try again. You're doing well. Look how far you've come. You were only crawling 10 years ago. Now you're already walking, all these kind of things. See yourself as that toddler and be compassionate. And yeah, there's another quote from, I don't know who, but if you fall down 8 times, you get up 9 times. And I think that's what life is, isn't it?
Exactly. But always self-compassion.
Definitely. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Anything else you love to share about self-compassion?
I think we've covered a lot there. And as you say, it all connects. So when we talk about self-compassion, we've talked about self-love, self-acceptance. It's all joins together. And it is a crucial part of that healing and growing in your spiritual journey, even just in life, if you just want to feel better, reconnecting with that is vital.
Definitely, definitely. So thank you so much for being here with us, sharing my love from my heart with you, and keep going, gorgeous soul. You're doing great.
Exactly. Love and light, blessings.